Ajá. Okay. Welcome. Hmm.
That's the delay from the YouTube for some reason. That's what I'm guessing.
It's gonna be a little.
We're having AV issues at the moment.
Don't be outside, so I can help.
I'm gonna try plugging in the Polycom again.
Okay. Yeah, but they're not there.
You have to start the one.
You have to
Just
start.
see. Oh,
You have to do it.
You have to start.
got it. Thank you.
I think you have to go into your browser
Just see. Oh, you have to do it.
You have to start.
and
Thank you.
You were somehow on YouTube too, right?
Yeah.
You have to go into your browser.
Oh, you have to do it.
And I have nightmares about it.
Isn't that, this has to be we said it's a public meeting, is that what we're doing?
Yeah.
Oh.
Mhm.
YouTube.
You have to go into your.
There you are, Renee.
Thank you.
And I have nightmares about it.
Isn't that, this has to be we said it's a public meeting, is that what we're doing?
Yeah. See. YouTube. This is it. Ah, right here.
There you are, Renee.
If you click on it, it should be.
If every second.
Good evening. Can you guys hear me? Did I get on there?
Yes, can you hear us?
I can hear you. Should I put myself into video or no?
It's up to you.
You don't have to.
It's up to you.
Well, it might be fun since I've never done this before, and I can mute myself, right?
Yes.
Wait a
All
minute.
right. Let's see. Oh,
Oh, that's very close. Maybe too close. There.
right. So yeah, Keisha that was joining us also, but we lost her in the trying to log in. And then Isla will join us around 6 when she gets off practice. And so let me make sure nobody's.
Okay.
See.
Appreciate everybody's patience.
Oh,
Doesn't matter how much time I spend on Zoom, there's still like a mic don't work or you're on mute.
Yeah.
Every day there's some technical thing that can do.
We're gonna start with our agenda, but we don't have a quorum to vote on the minutes, right?
yeah.
Right now, unless Keisha comes back and Isla joins.
Who's in charge?
I was trying to figure out how to get closed caption, but
Oh, I can get it.
all right.
Okay. Go ahead, Jackie.
Right, so in the email thread,
Yeah.
we want to talk about immigration policies, DEI.
You're prepared.
I think that's why, I think
Yeah,
that's why
that's
I'm
why.
here.
Yeah.
So I wanna start with,
Is everybody home?
oh. Yeah, maybe I should start with my name. That would be helpful. I'm Mary Kane. I am senior legal counsel here at the district. And we've been working on this issue for a bit of time, really the last couple of months as we received a lot of attention. Directives from the federal government. I do want to start by saying that our superintendent stands firm in our beliefs, what our goals are, what our values are for this district, and we will not change it. There will continue to be the commitment to all of our students, make sure that they can succeed in their academic and other endeavors. And so that is the constant. The rest of the stuff is not at this point, and I'm going to be a bit of a disappointment because what I can tell you right now on the legal landscape is there have been a lot of executive orders come down. Executive orders are not law. And as you've probably been reading in the papers or hearing about in the news is many of the orders are being challenged in the courts. So we have a rather chaotic landscape of what it is we're supposed to be doing, how we're supposed to be reacting, you know. And so I just want to set the stage there that we are getting new information every day as to what to do and how to respond. And I don't have definitive answers on a lot of things because of where we are in the moment. What we are trying to do is work with our department staff, particularly those who have relationships with the federal government with respect to funding and federal grants and things like that. Is we're trying to dig deep and figure out what it is that we need to do in order to ensure that we can continue the grants that we have in place that are used to support our students. So that is some of the work we're doing, but it's, as I said, it's difficult with new information coming into us every day. And that's primarily on the DEI. The executive orders have really focused on a lot of the DEI stuff. And so that's that area we are addressing as best we can through the individual grants, looking at what is required, what is being asked, and where in the process in terms of what has been determined by a court to move forward, what is under it. Do you all know what an injunction is? So an injunction, for those who don't, an injunction is it's a court saying, halt, you may not move forward until there's further consideration. So a lot of these executive orders are at that stage right now. With respect to our newcomer students and refugee students, we have been training staff members since November on what to do in the event of an ICE action. We still, Oregon is a sanctuary state, meaning that law enforcement and public agencies, of which we are one, are prohibited from working with Homeland Security, so kind of voluntarily providing information on our students and families. So we are prohibited from doing that, and we will follow that law. We continue to follow that law. And so that's part of the training that we have been giving to staff. And we have also been working with our contract partners in developing action plans in the event that there are incidents that occur at the school. And we will continue to educate. There's a Supreme Court case called Plyler v. Doe, which says that no school district may prohibit a student from coming into their school based on their nationality. So that is federal law. It's the Supreme Court, and we are going to follow the law. So we welcome all students. We're going to protect them as best we can. We are, I know, particularly with our contract partners, providing guidance to families and information to students to help them to understand what their rights are, that they know what to do in the event they are stopped on the street or at a grocery store or whatever. There is again on the federal level, Homeland Security at one point honored what are called sensitive locations, and they were hospitals, schools, courthouses, clinics, things like that. That has been vacated now, and so while there have been no actions that in Portland, that layer of protection is no longer available to us. Um, uh, But we will continue to, and that's why we've been doing some of the trainings in the event that there is some action that occurs at school, or if there's an intent of an action at school. I don't know if you have any questions, or you have a question,
I have a
because I
couple-
think I moved to my
I have a
end,
couple
the
of
end
questions,
of my, like, here's what we're doing.
First question is, does PBS collect information about immigration status of students? So, yeah, okay.
Well, I
I
think that
think
there is some, so this is again, a requirement for migrant education. Information that is collected, but then it's disaggregated and sent to the state. Because there's federal funding for that.
Okay. But so. Can you explain, so there's information about, there's information just like how many,
It's like counts,
not counts, but
Counts.
how many
Yeah.
specific individual
Because
students
it
are.
provides,
2,000
Yeah.
students who.
And obviously
apply
would
for
have
migrant
parents.
education, but not their names.
yeah, so
That makes-
it's kind of like the percentage per student. And it's recognizing that certain students may need additional support, language, et cetera. So there's that information.
And then second question is a little bit, maybe, or longer to answer is, what does the training entail? So like, what are school staff being told they should do if ICE shows up at school?
So we have taught them the difference between an administrative and a judicial warrant. We are as a district, we are required to follow judicial warrants. We do that. We have done that in the past. Subpoenas, warrants, we must follow them, and we do. Administrative warrants are warrants that come from within Homeland Security. So they are signed by typically the supervisor of the ICE agent who's going to do the action. Occasionally, they're signed by immigration judges, but the immigration, even that judicial signature does not have the same force of law. We are not required to follow it, right? And so we are advising them, well, essentially, we're advising them to call the general counsel's office in the event that somebody comes and says, I have a warrant, so that we can review, we can intercede and be the ones who are interacting with ICE agents. We are training them not to provide any information, no student information, not to have the students come, like to, if the ICE agents are in the office, put them in have them go to a room outside, keep the children away. Do not provide any information, do not provide the student or that agent unless it's been reviewed by my office and we see that it is a judicial warrant that they're showing. We are encouraging staff to talk to families about having their family packets that our community partners are doing the Know Your Rights trainings and having those family packets, encouraging families to leave those family packets and also to add to their emergency contact lists. In the event that there's an action that happens, say, in an apartment complex or in at a workplace, and there's no parent pick up a child, what we really want to do is to be able to contact another person that the family has designated as a safe person to pick up the child. Otherwise, we need to call DHS or law enforcement to have the child go to foster care. We think a better solution is to have the families have that agency to choose who will be caring for their child if they can't. So those are there's certain things that, and there's certain things that we may not have control of. So just to know, the administrative warrant, because it's based on the Fourth Amendment, it's which is the expectation of privacy. It's the ICE agents usually act in public. They're acting at sidewalks, right, in public areas. So not, they try to get into people's homes sometimes by fooling them, thinking it's a judicial warrant. So we are cognizant that students who are, you know, and going over to the McDonald's or to Freddy's for lunchtime may not, you know, will not have the same protections. Even it may be that even if they go on field trips, it's a public area, so there's not the same protections.
Yeah.
And so that's why we, working with students, help them. We are giving students the little red cards, the Know Your Rights cards, that they can know what to do in the event that they're heading to lunch somewhere and somebody stops. So that's our intent, to try to arm kids with knowledge.
I don't want to take up too much.
Oh, it's fine.
Is there anything you can do for parents? So like a concern of a parent coming to drop their kid off at school, and you know, the sidewalk in front of the school is public. There's no reason why there's privacy there, and ICE could be hanging out there, or like they're leaving after they drop kids, or picking up their kids and leaving with their kids.
I think that's a lot of where that's where the Know Your Rights trainings that are coming in for families, where they are receiving the same kinds of information and those little red cards, and then the family packets to go, you know, for them they can create. And that's the other thing we're asking them to do is have ready powers of attorney if needed. And that a power of attorney doesn't need to go before a judge, it doesn't need a notary, it doesn't, it is just an agreement you make with another person who you trust will care for your child in the event. So those are part of those family packets that, again, are we have particularly, I mean, it's primarily been Latino Network who's been doing them, but we have other and they've been posting them. That's a question.
Is in particular, but like, what would be the proper protocol to do, unfortunately, this, to, students to take a phone call, whether approach, this isn't.
The parent is detained. And if a student has a yonder pouch.
Yeah.
If they're detained, tell me when, so if they're detained at work, or if they're detained and they can't pick up a child, that we would say. Well, they would pick them up at the end of the school day, so students have their pouch, removed at the end of the school day. So, and I think the reality is, I have had some experience with people who have been detained. They're not making calls. They're not allowed to make calls. I had trouble when I was an attorney representing people who were detained. I couldn't do this. So I think that is one reality, is I don't know if they really make calls. That's why, again, we look at the emergency contact. If a parent doesn't pick up during the time we expect them to pick up, we want to be able to call somebody else who's on the list, or who has been designated our attorney to care for that child, and we can safely send them, you know, to that other person.
Sounds like there's a lot of focus on providing resources and support to folks who might be most at risk. I'm curious about providing additional resources to folks who are not being targeted about how they can support community members. So folks who are not at risk of ICE deportation, of doing some of that training around Know Your Right, or how you can support both folks in our school community.
Yeah, I can recommend some websites that can give you some really good information. The ACL. We can pull up we have the ACLU, Immigration Rights Legal Services is a really good one. That's where the little red cards come from. Latino Networks, family has have they made their family packet public? Is it on their, I think it's on their
I think
webpage.
it's on their website.
So Latino Network, if you go there, you can see what the family packet looks like and they know your rights. I think your best bet is the IRLC, Immigration Rights Legal Council. They set out all the scenarios. So it's a beautiful resource. And yeah, that's a great idea for us to make it more available. I think here's the group to talk about it with, to develop a plan.
Question?
Thus far, there have not been incidents of ICE trying to arrest minors out of school or, actually parents outside of school.
No. And well, not here in Chicago, about a month ago. They did try to enter a school in Chicago.
Didn't know that.
Was that the one
Yeah,
that
but they
turned
had
out-
the same,
that was
so
a
we have
Secret
the,
Service?
we have similar protocols. In fact, we've stolen some of their script language for our staff, so all of the benefit of the going. So the staff and recognized, because they had been trained and knew that the administrative loans did not give them access to the school.
I mean, one of the other concerns, this is going something a little bit different, is with everything that's happened on college campuses, there's also a concern now of chilling students' rights to, First Amendment rights, which are, a little limited, but they still have First Amendment rights. Does PBS have any policy around that? Like,
Students' rights? No, we believe in student rights. We are,
I mean, in terms of being targeted for a specific viewpoint by immigration officials.
No. They have not, we have not been contacted by immigration for anything. We are subject to a CR right now. Taiwan. Athletes. And we have a state law that requires us, and we follow them, that they are included in the protected classes. People who shall not be discriminated against. So they have equal access to all services, and activities, and programs that are available to all of our other students. And there is an interpretation of Title IX by the federal government that would not include transgender for students.
What is going on with the Department of Education? Do you have any idea?
When I mentioned earlier about the day-to-day, I don't know. I mean, there's an executive order to dismantle it. But that power rests with Congress. And so we're not clear where things are, right? My understanding, and again, this is reading the newspaper like you, is that special ed services will go to health, health and human services. There's no mention of where Title I the federal Department of Ed is responsible primarily for special education funding. Title I funding, that's for essentially for children. So they're silent on where the Title I funding or Title I department don't give any. But there's information, special education department services. That's about all I have.
That's all right.
So what is that?
So the executive, from the executive branch sees a complete, the Department of Education going away completely and moving some of the responsibilities for students with disabilities and offering services. But it's silent as to what responsibilities for children. If anyone.
And that's not really legal, because Title I is, I mean, it's a act passed by Congress that authorizes the Department of Education to, right?
Exactly, yeah, so that when I
They
say
can't
there's
really-
there's a certain level of,
I mean,
we're all living with a level of, I guess it's a wait and see, right? So there are
Yeah.
indications of something going. It's not been, we haven't heard yet from Congress about whether that's something that they want to implement.
they just go along with it. It's,
Well, and then in the meantime, there are these court actions that are putting things sometimes on pause, sometimes in various stages of the judicial process.
on the way over here, I was listening to NPR, and there was a story about, that I didn't catch all of, about DEI and I don't know how far this is, but this, you know, this rumors have been, you've been hearing these, that the administration is planning to cut or withhold funding for certain programs for school districts that are still implementing DEI. But when you got into the story, what they were defining as DEI was like discrimination against people, you know, so that everyone's treated equally. Meaning like, you know, the sort of whole reverse discrimination idea. But an example they gave is like, you can still have Black History Month event where you have to invite everybody. Which when I heard that, I thought, well, the main thing here is like, don't comply in advance, because I don't know that we have events where we don't invite everybody, right? Do we? I mean, pretty much like, even though you may have maybe I'm wrong about this, but if you had an event, you wouldn't exclude people from attending that event, right? Based on race or neighbor.
Yeah, and the funding question, that came up in early February, was an OMB action trying to stop funding for certain school programs. Well, it was all federal funding, but schools had, you know, our funding was lifted as part of it. I mean, ours, education funding is listed. But there's an injunction there, because again, it's Congress that allocates money, so they look at it and they allocate those funds. So it's not. And stop it, because it's already been allocated, and yet, I mean, and yet we're seeing funding stop and pausing. Which is why there are, again, judicial actions. It's all very complicated, and so I think it's leaving us trying to figure out what to do so that there's not an interruption of services and an interruption of money. And we're getting new information daily, and it's helping us assess what we need to do to continue doing the work that we've been doing. Provide those programs and those supports that we find are necessary, to help all of our students succeed. Bernard, do you want to add anything?
It's just, it's such a landscape. The latest story I read on the Department today talked about, President Biden gave districts some grace in spending down on COVID down. Oh, and being reimbursed, I guess being reimbursed for our COVID, after we spent out our COVID dollars. The current, Secretary of Education sent a letter to states last Friday at 5, saying that the department would no longer be reimbursing states for those COVID dollars.
As of yesterday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I'm originally from Maryland, so my phone still gives me lots of news from Maryland. So I was reading a story about how the Maryland State Superintendent was reacting to that because it was $400 million and they had already spent $370. Actually, what that's going to do for their funding gaps. And I know it's been in the news here as well, although I didn't catch it.
Well, the ODE has announced that they have had to cut literacy programs as they've lost federal dollars. Presuming it's from the ESSER funds too. So some programs are being cut. They were just cut yesterday, I think.
Keisha has her hand.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Keisha.
No worries. I was just wondering if you are in conversation with the superintendent and or Nicole Watson about this topic as it is specific to the CDSE.
I have, I know there have been conversations about that. And I also, this is just Renard's interpretation. The CDSC is a bond-funded activity and isn't funded by federal funds at all. Those are all it's all taxpayer funded through the voter funded, through them voting us to be able to go out for the bond. And so I have not been in any conversations where there has been any talk of pausing or reassessing. We are still moving forward with our plans to develop the Center for Black Student Excellence and the programming that will go along with it.
Yeah, that's good. There's just, I don't know if you're aware where you probably are, the existing OCR complaint, right? I'm only asking because I'm sorry, I joined a little late. I'm Keisha Locklear. I'm project manager for the Jefferson modernization in PPS, working in the Office of School Modernization, but I'm also been helping out the CBSC folks with some of the programming and construction, early budgeting for the CBSC as well. And so that's why I asked the question, just because we happen to be discussing this topic today in a meeting. And so I was just making sure that, you know, everybody's talking to everybody that needs to be talking to everyone, you know, so that Nicole Watts, she's the new sort of, I guess, director of the CBSE, now that Toys had to leave. And so just making sure that she's aware of any of these concerns, because I mean, I have the same concern, even though it's bond funds and everything like that. It's like the government doesn't want to release other funds to us if we have these programs like these in place, right? So that's my concern.
Sure. And I think our stance has always been the Center for Black Student Excellence isn't going to not allow white students to go there, right? Or not allow
That would be discrimination.
that would be discrimination. And that's never been a part of our thinking. And so I can't sit here and predict what's going to happen with funding and how they may, because there was talk early on about the department coming after maybe state departments of ed that had diversity, equity, and inclusion programming and things like that. And so I can't predict what'll happen. We are in the storm as much as everyone else is.
Yeah, definitely unprecedented times. Okay, more to come
Thank you.
Oh, yeah.
at the very least.
I don't know, that was, as an advisory committees, we can identify the problem. Hard to come up with because the landscape changing so quickly. To come up with ideas for what to do, or you know, that what we think is PBS should do. I don't know, it's good to get the information of what's being done. I don't know if people have thoughts on where to go, like, yeah, what our goal is here. And
Right.
help with it.
What I would offer is as judicial rulings come down.
Yeah.
As injunctions happen or things are allowed to progress, you know, there's all of those possibilities. That will give us more clarity about how we can react and what we can possibly do. But we just don't have that right now. So I don't want anyone in the space feeling badly because we can't recommend action. We don't have enough information and don't yet know the parameters within which we'd be operating in order to recommend the action. It's sort of, I'm working on being comfortable in the unknown. It's a lot for me.
It's a lot for all of us. I'm still struggling with that. Go ahead.
I'm not saying,
I've learned from you.
I'm not, I said I'm working on it. I didn't say I had mastered it, I'm working on it.
What are the, core values or North Star compass, whatever you want to put on it, that PPS leadership is using to navigate the uncertainty when there are decisions to be made? And what are the core values or criteria that you're holding as a leadership team around? These are the things we're gonna do for as long as we can.
I think it's the work we've been doing. I think it's the recognizing where the past inequities have led us and trying to make sure this and all students rise. I don't know.
Yeah, I think, I'll speak for myself, like what I try to keep in mind is like, what's best for students? What's the right thing to do for students? And then that always comes with a little bit of risk reward for us as a district. Just like, are there risks for this action for students with the reward of what we get from the students will be able to benefit from? Or some of the things I know I try to keep in the forefront of my thinking all the time. Because I think that's the North Star, because that's what we're here for. We're here for, educating and creating the next generation of leaders and learners and community members and all of that goodness, which is a complex, hard task that they're only making part of. They aren't helping. But I just feel fortunate that we have a really awesome group of counselors who can help us navigate the legal and political landscape that we find ourselves in.
I really did appreciate that clarity at the top of like, we're going to keep doing what we've been doing. These are the things that are legal, the rest is whatever, but we're gonna keep that focus and just starting off with that and having the message really helpful in times of sessions.
And
Yeah.
the superintendent has been clear about that. We know what we are doing. We know how we want to move forward. But we don't, all the other stuff we don't know. And we don't know how we'll find our way from where we are now to where we want to be. We have a time.
Carissa has her hand.
Oh. Um,
Go ahead.
Can you guys hear me?
Mhm.
Okay, I just wanted to say, obviously, there's many different factors that we have zero control over. And really is, as everyone said, unprecedented. I think for us, all of us as parents, as community members, as staff members, the most important thing is for us to just reflect confidence and calm, and be kind of the grounding person wherever we are so that the kids don't get scared. It's just like if you see an accident, the kids are going to be as scared as you show them to be, you know? So I just think that finding kind of our center or staying grounded, being, not overreacting and not trying to rush to make some new actions, just kind of take it in and analyze and stay grounded and reflect that to the kids. So.
Yeah, now I'll just say that's I mean, it's clear that, the fear that I had when on January 20th, and that you see this in a lot of different areas, like certain law firms, certain universities, but not to overreact or respond proactively to threats that you don't know that are gonna come to fruition. And like, an example, a perfect example is again, the story I heard when they talk about, cutting funding for, districts that have DEI programs or, and when they describe, but when you get to these of what it actually is, it's, we're not at risk because we're not doing things that discriminate against white students, which is, like what they're concerned about.
I think I'm not, that we're not at risk. I think there are, because with every letter, they tend to be on Fridays.
Mhm.
I also don't care about the last, so.
Yeah, I think we just wait to see what comes in.
That I probably
And to see
missed.
how,
When I said,
and we continue to, we assess with everything. Are we following the law? What are we doing? How,
I think I misspoke when I said not at risk. I meant that doesn't necessarily apply now.
Right.
So we shouldn't, we're not cutting programs out of fear that until, somebody makes you.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting proposition, right? I was reading a story. I have a friend who's in my role in Columbus, Ohio. And their state legislature came down with this concept that we're only recognizing two genders. And we're only going to recognize name and birth. And their school district went through their student information system and changed them. And it has caused a major uproar. And one, they were, my understanding from if the article was accurate, I think, they were the only district that had actually attempted to comply with that law. Or had tried to comply, and it caused a lot of hurt and harm. And so I think I'm grateful to work among a team where we have those kinds of conversations. Like the federal government is only recognizing two genders, but we can still recognize our non-binary students. And send in a blank field or something like that when we have to report information and counts up to the federal government, the state and federal government. But yeah, it's I think decisions in this moment have to be very measured. And to Mary's point, and your point, we can't be quick to overreact or try to get out in front of something too far.
Hurry up.
I don't know. I had some questions. I think we maybe, but I think all of them. Answer just as. I mean, it was mostly about like DEI and immigration executive orders. And I feel like right now, we just don't know that much, and it's all kind of crazy. And it's just, we have to wait for all of this, to, like, really all be set in stone, because it's still not technically law.
Many of the things with the immigration, a lot of it is, I think there is, that is an area where I think and arm ourselves with knowledge, knowing what your constitutional rights are. We, we're an educational institution, we should be teaching that anyway. But knowing what they are is a great tool. And, so, that is one thing that I know we can do better.
Conversations are students having about topics in school, or are they?
Maybe it's kind of like a topic for some kids, especially if some you know, at risk, or if even for some kids at my school at risk in schools, kind of safe space for that. Because anything can happen outside of school. So it's just tough topics. Kids aren't really too much.
I really don't think that kids that like I see around really have like an idea of how I hesitate to say probable, but like the possibility that this actually might happen. Because there's like apart from the example of Chicago that you stated, a lot of kids are educated on like what could actually happen that these ICE officials would go into the school and try to extract kids. A lot of kids just think like, well, this probably won't happen to us. So they hold on to this kind of ignorance that they're safe or they're immune to this. So out of that, I don't think I hear a lot of them talking about it. But if they just were to like know like the seriousness of the topic or like how it may affect their own lives.
I think we're seeing kind of one-offs in the state, like hearing there are people who are being picked up, but they're not big showy raids. And we did have this in last administration, first administration, where they were sort of in front of courthouses, in front of the Multnomah County. So it's picked up there. To define that kind of location. Protection. And so, but that was a number of years ago, and people do forget, or you don't, it's hard to imagine that you would live in a place like that would do that. And so I understand why students are like, it's not that, it's not. I don't want to think about it until it's face to face. So I recognize that student sensibility. And I don't know if there's something that's something. We also don't want to frighten students, so there's a balance there as well.
To kind of actually so a lot of students tend to misunderstand or like fully informed about ICE agent like so there's like a social escalates others into thinking, in panic mode.
Well, Homeland Security will show up in plain clothes. They don't necessarily show up in, they don't typically say who they are other than law enforcement, because then when they say by warrant, you presume that it's a judicial one, same way that it would be coming from the sheriff. So there's some deliberative action that's happening on the part of Homeland Security to confuse. So
Because that is something that I've noticed, that sometimes students or even state that it is, they confuse it from an accident. So they automatically assume that someone who's next or someone who's very. Uniform, if you did the IS, is there a way to be better informed students so as to not cause more panic?
So one of the trainings that network had for families that I attended, just wanted to be more informed about it. And one of the things they went through, not only the judicial warrants versus the other one. They also talked about the different branches within within the
Homeland Security.
And all of the different badges that they have. And so they were showing each one and what each one meant and what they did. So that was for our parents, and I know that Latino Network is working on providing that for high school kids. And I know there's another one coming up. But I can't remember if it's only for staff, the one at here that we'll have here.
we can perhaps add that to our webpage so that counselors can provide that information to students.
And staff would be able to attend or?
So this is being organized by Latino Network and one of our other departments. But I don't know who
But it's only for
was invited.
it's invited only, right?
Uh-huh.
PPS, limited to PPS.
Because I have been in trainings.
Uh-huh.
It's just that with the constant amount of information that you get.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
Different kinds of things.
yeah,
I am not able to just abstract, like absorb everything in
Yeah.
one go. And because the training I received it was really good. I just felt like I wasn't completely informed, for example, about the badges. So that was still something that is new to me, like no freshers me. But I guess I just don't want more panic to be caused, especially because this was like, oh, well, I saw this like over here happening. I don't know, maybe that was isolation, that just causes more panic for the rest of the community. So I guess I do or something I would like to see during this moment, just the discussion of the difference of what those boundaries mean. Yeah.
we can continue to work with Latino to provide it to our kids.
Yeah.
Questions that I did write this down. In terms of kind of let's start. And how do we
Well, there's also a letter you can send down that was put together by the National Historic Association. To urge Congress to cut funding.
Where's that?
On my email. I can give it to Lydia. I think you have a quorum.
One, two.
Oh.
Hi, Izzy. 1, 2.
We'll get that to you.
Yeah. I'll find it.
If there are no more questions from Ms. King, do we want, was one of the topics to approve the minutes? Because we have a quorum.
Right, so I shared the meeting minutes from our last time together. And you'll need to hold the vote and approve those. If you feel like they'd be approved. Just so I can get the draft. Done. Being posted, we're supposed to be posting the meeting minutes 2 weeks after the meeting takes place. And then once the committee approves them, we take the draft out.
So is those,
There's one of the- No, it's the email that I sent separately. And just a reminder that all of the documents from these meetings will be posted in our RESJ PAC website as well. So we need to post everything there. And I try to keep up with the timelines, and you are welcome to go in and click on the paper.
Should have a draft watermark. We need to put a watermark on it.
You can see that, so that, this is, and this. Yeah, there it is. So somebody need to.
So the motion in a second.
I move to approve minutes for the February meeting.
I think we have to ask everybody. in favor.
Favor, okay. All right. So everybody in favor? Keisha, Arista, Izzy,
Yes.
Arista,
Or sorry, is there-
Yes. Yes.
Izzy,
Yes.
yes.
Is there anything else on our agenda? I'm sorry, I don't. have it.
No, that's it. I did wanted to remind everyone that if you haven't done so, to respond to the doodle poll for our next meeting. I think for a few of you that did respond to it. And we were having a hard time finding out the best day and time with the members that replied. But if you haven't done so, please respond with either a yes or get that meeting scheduled for June. Okay.
Thank you all for coming. Be space with you. Thank you.
Of course. Thank you.
Have a good
Thank
night,
you. Have a great
online
night.
friends.
You all have a great night as well. Bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.